Hey, what's up YouTube, and welcome back to the Barlo Zone, home of the one and only Demon Hunter King Kaido himself sent to Azeroth. How's everybody doing today? I hope y'all are excited to hear part 2 of this theory and the conclusion. Just to go over a brief recap of the last video. I'm sure it's only been 2 days since I posted it, but hey, just in case, a lot can happen in 2 days. I started off by talking about the difference between fan fiction and theory crafting for me, and wanted to show the evolution of a Barlo theory for you guys, right? Like, not just explaining what the theory is and, touching on a few points. I wanted y'all to actually see how my theories evolve. And I really found this one enticing to do this because it began as a what if thought for me, which seems to indicate a fan fiction in my mind. Like, if you're talking about what if, to me, you're probably talking about, what if things played out a little differently like this. So I presented the what if, what if teaches a bait and switch. And then I went into detail about some things that people use to justify calling Teach a bad guy in the story, right? In part 2, what I'm going to do is present an alternate way of looking at things. And once again, I am going to go into canon events because, as I pointed out in part 1, canonicity and maintaining or standing alongside canonicity is the line between fan fiction and theory crafting to me. You can present the wildest, outrageous, most ridiculous fan fiction possible. If it holds up to canon, I'm probably going to stop in and talk to you about it because it's inspired a theory. So what I would like to begin with today talking about is the anti-hero trope. Because, Oda loves, taking tropes and using them in various ways, more often than not flipping them on their heads. But I wanted to kind of point out that, yeah, there are these things that Teach has done that are bad. I mean, notably a third one you guys might have made some good arguments for in the first video. But I do want to point out that 3 times, for sure, 3 times, that rule of 3 that Oda loves, 3 times Teach has shown alignment with Luffy's beliefs. Now, what are those 3, Barlo? Let's go ahead and hop into the first one. I don't think I'm going to tell you guys all 3 at once. We'll just get into them in order right now, right? So the first instance that we had of Teach showing that he was aligned with Luffy's beliefs is Jaya. Yeah, okay, on Jaya, Teach was presented as the antithesis of Luffy, right? Like, we all remember that bar scene. It's a classic, for any real One Piece fan who was there. You remember when Luffy first met Teach, right? Like, they were presented as opposites. But let's keep in mind, Bellamy was the bad guy of Jaya, not Teach. It was Bellamy. Bellamy was the one who was there talking about dreams aren't real. Only gold and treasure are real to a pirate. What is a dream but a waste of time type stuff, right? And, another classic scene we all remember, Luffy leaving that imprint in Bellamy's face, that stamp like, nah, fool, dreams are real, and I just stamped the proof into your face. But I just said he was presented as the antithesis, right? Like, Teach was presented as the antithesis of Luffy. And, I say it a lot, I'm going to say it again, antithesis doesn't mean opposite, doesn't mean bad guy. Just means they stand on the opposite side. Okay, you know what? I guess antithesis does mean opposite. I'm capping 100% right there. And keep it a stack with you guys. I was full of BS on that statement. But antithesis does not mean bad guy. Keep that in mind. Now, where on Jaya did Teach show any alignment with Luffy's beliefs? And I gotta bring up, what was the last thing that Teach said to Luffy. And I'd like to point out, I am also 99.99% sure this was the last words ever spoken between the two. Sorry if y'all just heard my laptop beeping right there. The last thing that Teach said to Luffy is, "A man's dreams never die." That is him showing alignment with Luffy's beliefs, right? Luffy believes in his dreams. Luffy believes that that is the only thing worth fighting for. And Teach is seemingly agreeing that, yeah, dreams are real and they are worth being pursued. It is the only thing, your only legacy that cannot be killed. Now, oh yeah, I got this point right here. I do find it curious that these words were spoken by a man who is believed to never sleep. What would somebody who doesn't sleep know about dreams, man? Right? Anyway, moving on. What was the second instance of Teach showing alignment with Luffy? And I do want to preface this one. I fully admit it was completely by accident. Even though it was completely by accident, the fact that Teach was here in this same situation shows that Teach has a similar type of care for the people he wants on his crew, for the people that he sees as important to his plan, his life, whatever you want to call it. The fact that Teach was at Impel Down at the same time Luffy was enough of a distraction for Magellan that Luffy and Buggy managed to co-opt the help of Bonchan to get them TF out of Impel Down. If it wasn't for Teach being present, it's unlikely Luffy and Buggy make it out of that situation. Now, as I said, this one is more by coincidence. It wasn't an active choice. You know what? Honestly, it might have been an active choice. Teach realizing Luffy was there. He's all, okay, he's going to be a distraction for me while I break out these people that I need, not realizing he was also serving as a distraction for Luffy, who was trying to break somebody out that he needed. And the third one, a little more obscure, but I think it is one of the more important points to think about when we're considering anything about Teach and or his alignment, right? And that's Kuzan. Now I'm gonna straight up ask, is there anybody who believes that Kuzan is a bad guy? I'll give you a few seconds, timestamp it, flame me in the comments. Is there anybody who believes that Kuzan is a bad guy in this story? I don't. And more importantly, I would like to point out how Teach recruited Kuzan. It wasn't a Davy backfight. It wasn't blackmail. It wasn't coercion or force. It was, hey, why don't you join me? I can help you achieve your dream while you help me achieve mine. It's your choice. Yeah, I understand you packed in my crew out there. I'm a little upset about that, but I realize and respect your strength. And I would like to offer you a chance to join my crew, pursue your dream, because it just so happens to align with mine. Now, I'm going to say, man, yeah, some bad guys have, you guys are going to hear the page flipping real quick, but some bad guys have done things like this where they try to manipulate somebody through making it seem like they have a choice, right? And, you know, what were Kuzan's options at this point? Just sitting around the bar, drinking, trying to forget about life and everything? Like, no. And even in that situation, Teach offered this man a reason and a chance to stand back up and fight for his dreams. Now, I did mention the anti-hero trope, right? And the fact that if Oda loves one thing almost as much as referencing real-life culture, history, and mythology, it's taking a classic trope and flipping it on its head. Now, I had to consider for a moment, right? Like, what would the anti-hero trope look like flipped on its head? So, you know, that begins with, what is the anti-hero trope, right? Because, I mean, most obviously, they're already somebody who stands in between being a hero and a villain. Like, sure, they might skew more towards heroic actions, right? Like they choose to do things because it's for a greater good. They're just willing to pull the trigger a classic hero wouldn't, right? Like, Wolverine, the Punisher, they're willing to make that decision that somebody is too much of a threat if left alive. Whereas, the Charles Xaviers or the Daredevils would be all, no, you know what? At the end of the day, they're still a human. They still deserve to live. We are going to bring them in, prosecute them. But another classic part of the anti-hero trope, right, is, okay, where did I leave off? Traditionally speaking, an anti-hero is a brute, is somebody who relies on muscle, isn't somebody who spends an excessive amount of time considering 1,000 different angles or options. It's they make the decision, they act on the decision. So with this skeleton, what would a flipped anti-hero trope look like? I would say, turning this trope on its head is probably going to look like somebody who is extremely intelligent and skews towards villainy. Now, with this idea in mind, and this might call back to the last video here. Let me see, I got the note here still. Gonna hear the page flip one more time. Believe it was when I was talking about the Amazon lily and him not destroying the island himself, right? So we'll go ahead and try to remember that as I go into this, because it is the one outlier with this part. But let's consider Teach's actions, right? Like, this guy has gotten everything he's gone after. He wanted to be a warlord. He manipulated events to make it happen. He needed the Gura Gura no Mi on his side. Figured out how to make it happen. He wanted control of Hachinosu. He manipulated the world government into helping him take control of it. And once again, we got to consider Kuzan and the fact that, is there anybody calling Kuzan a bad guy? The fact that he was able to convince this man who we believe to stand on the side of right to join his crew. Teach is an intellect character in a video game. Yeah, sure, this character has insane power, but that's not what he's relying on to get the job done. This man is an intelligent character. He is playing 5D chess on a 2D board. Now, as I pointed out, Amazon Lily does stand as the one blemish in this, but I gotta say, I don't even think Vegapunk would have been able to predict Rayleigh chatting up and swimming to Amazon Lily in that moment, because how would he have known? How would he have known he needs to get to Amazon Lily as fast as possible? Like, Vegapunk might have been all, hey, you know what? This Rayleigh guy is doing the thing called existing right now, and he is connected to these people, so there's the chance. But, it's like a 0.0000000000001 chance, and not even worth considering. We can go ahead and consider it a non-factor. Even Vegapunk probably would have come to that same conclusion. And if it wasn't for Rayleigh showing up, I'm sure the Blackbeard pirates managed to handle the world government and finish what they set out to accomplish there. Except for the whole twist with Boa's fruit and Teach having to sacrifice most of his crew to get it. But anyway, I want to point out that with the God Valley flashback so far, we're already starting to see Oda lay the seeds of Teach being rebranded, and potentially, if we don't pick up on him, he is going to look like a bait and switch when the ultimate twist is revealed. For anybody who likes paying attention to the small deals as much, or the small details as much as I am, a lot of twists aren't as big. We kind of get inklings here and there of where things may potentially be going. So when it happens, we're, oh, okay, you know what, that's kind of cool. Everything worked out perfectly. But I want to point out that already with the God Valley flashback, Teach is being rebranded slowly. He's connected to the ancient history and somebody who was declared to be the proper and true king of the world in Davy D. Zebek. God Valley also paints this man hard as a victim. Like, I know, even as a victim, there's no justification for imposing that same distress on other people simply because you had to go through it. But considering that he survived God Valley, his dad died, and his mom is going to die before he's 12 years old, I don't think we're dealing with a well-balanced mentally person here. So it might not be as easy as somebody pointing out things to him while talking about what happened on God Valley. As I've been saying, potentially that's the reason Oda had to set up Garp being the victim, the one captured on Hachinosu, right? He knew he was about to go into the God Valley flashback, which means Luffy was about to get this information. Luffy isn't going to care. He has never once in the story cared about anything that happened in the past. Dude has his eyes set on the future exclusively. Teach, on the other hand, not only has a reason to care, but this information should be impactful to him, right? Like, it might not be enough to convince Teach to let Garp go, but it might be enough to convince Teach to not kill Garp, to bring Garp along for the ride to the final war that will be happening somewhere around Laugh Tale. And another thing I just want to point out again, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again, and I am going to keep saying it anytime the subject of Teach comes up. Teach is far more akin to Sasuke than he is to Madara. He is an anti-hero, somebody that gives the hero grief and flack, but ultimately is not an evil that needs to be put down or dealt with in a substantial way. Very much if you want to call him a bad guy. I would like people to start seeing him differently, but I'm not going to try to force anybody to see him. I'm going to lay out my arguments, and if y'all choose to see him differently, that's on y'all. However y'all choose to see a bad guy, anti-hero, whatever. A fight with Luffy at the end, just like with Sasuke, is going to be enough to ultimately right whatever went wrong in Teach's life. Because a fight with Luffy is going to result in laughter and happiness. Two things I don't believe Teach has ever genuinely experienced in his life. So, this does bring me to the end of this idea about, what if Teach is a bait and switch, right? The theory is still evolving for me. I wanted to present all of the canonicity I found that, could go against the idea or could support the idea. This one, I would really enjoy getting the community's input on as it solidifies into a theory, because, as I think about it, I believe I have laid out enough. Man, I'm starting to get a little hot. I believe I have laid out enough to justify myself and those of us who are seeing Teach in a different light. I believe I've laid out enough that it could be justified as a theory that Teach isn't a bad guy, that Teach is the end game of this story. But I would love to get your guys' opinions on all of this. If you stuck out the ride through both parts, hey, much love to you guys. I appreciate that. Let me know with a like and or a sub. If you don't want to subscribe, let me know in the comments that you were along for the ride and how you feel at the end of the ride. Are you seeing Teach in a different light? Do you have something I should consider that might make me see Teach back in the old light? I'd love to hear it all. Let me know. If a YouTube comment isn't enough, as always, friends, don't forget you can find me on the socials, X and Tumblr at Barlo Theorycrafting, or join my Discord community once again, where we can have discussions about all of my ideas before I turn them into theories. I'd just love to hear from you guys on anything, all your ideas. Let's have some fun talking about this story, you know. But all links to all of that will be in the comments as always. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Much love, friends.